Kid 1. Eric Smith. Eric Smith was just 13 years old when he murdered a 4-year-old kid in Savona, New York. His story made national headlines, and the jury unanimously found Smith guilty of second-degree murder. After luring that kid into the Steuben County woods, strangling him, beating him with rocks, and sodomizing him with a stick, Smith confessed and was arrested. Derrick Robie was the kid murdered by Eric Smith. Derrick was a 4-year-old child who lived in the Village of Savona in central Steuben County, just off State Route 17, now Interstate 86. His parents are Dale and Doreen Robie, who still live in the area. Derrick was walking from his home to a nearby park in Savona on August 2, 1993, where he was planning to take part in a recreation program. Smith intercepted him along the way and lured him into a secluded area before beating, strangling, and sexually abusing him. Due to Savona's proximity to a major highway, there was initially rampant speculation that Derrick had been killed by some faceless drifter passing through town. A week after the discovery of Derrick's body triggered an intense manhunt for his killer, Smith admitted his involvement to family members. Smith said he spotted Derrick walking and immediately decided to take his anger out on the younger boy. Smith told the parole board he carried a lot of anger due to emotional and physical abuse he suffered at home and bullying he endured at school. A parole board decided in November 2021 to release Smith. Fearing he would return to the community of Savona, residents staged a peaceful protest. Killer Kid 2. Christopher Pittman. At age 12, Pittman ran away from home twice, threatened suicide, was picked up by police, and confined to a facility for troubled or runaway children. He was confined there for 6 days. While there, he was put on Paxil for mild depression. His father, Joe, sent him away from their home in Oxford, Florida, to live with his grandparents in Chester, South Carolina. His paternal grandparents had been a source of stability to him for years, in a life with a mother who had run out on him twice and a father whom Pittman claimed to have been abusive. His doctor in Chester, having no samples of Paxil to give Pittman, gave him samples of Zoloft instead. Although both drugs are SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors with similar modes of selective action, abruptly substituting one for the other is usually not advisable. Almost immediately, Pittman allegedly began to experience negative side effects from the new medication. His sister went so far as to describe him as manic. He purportedly experienced a burning sensation all over his body, which required pain medication. He complained about the side effects of the drug. At a subsequent doctor's visit, his dosage was increased from 100 milligrams daily to 200 milligrams daily. Zoloft does have several side effects in children, including aggravated depression, abnormal dreams, paranoid reactions, hallucinations, aggressive behavior, and delusions. Risks from overdose include potential manic reactions. Pittman had an argument on the school bus, choked a fellow student, and later disturbed the person playing piano in his church. That night, after receiving a paddling from his grandfather, Pittman went into his grandparents' bedroom and murdered them with their own shotgun, which he had been taught how to use. After the murder, he set fire to the house using a candle and papers. Pittman took his grandparents' car, their guns, his dog, and $33 and left. He was picked up after getting stuck 2 counties away. Before confessing, he told a story of a large black male who had kidnapped him after murdering his grandparents and setting fire to their house. When he ultimately confessed, he proclaimed that his grandparents deserved what they got. He later claimed that he was under the influence of an overdose of Zoloft. Pittman claimed Zoloft caused command hallucinations, a voice telling him to murder his grandparents, and that it was almost like a dream or a television show he was watching but couldn't stop. Killer Kid 3. Joshua Phillips. It was November 3, 1998, when 8-year-old Maddie Clifton went missing in Jacksonville, Florida. After she was reported missing, police began searching for her and interviewing her neighbors. Hundreds of people would volunteer in the search for Maddie, scouring the woods and dumpsters around the neighborhood. The search for Maddie would end a week after she first disappeared, but it wasn't searchers or police who found her body. It was Melissa Phillips, 14-year-old Joshua Phillips' mother. Thinking that her son's waterbed appeared to be leaking, she went to inspect it and found Maddie Clifton's corpse hidden underneath. she ran out of the house and immediately went to the police. Phillips was arrested later that day at his school and confessed to the murder within hours. According to Phillips, on November 3, 1998, he was home alone when Maddie Clifton, who lived across the road from Phillips, came to his house asking him to come outside and play basketball. Phillips agreed, even though he was not allowed to have friends over while his parents were not home. As the two were playing basketball, Phillips accidentally hit the ball into Clifton's eye, causing her to bleed, cry, and scream. Phillips panicked, knowing his father Steve would be home soon and fearing his reaction. Phillips dragged Clifton into his house, saying that the clothing came off Clifton's lower body as he did so. He hit her with the baseball bat to stop her from screaming before putting her under the base of his bed. When Steve returned home, Phillips interacted with him for a period of time before returning to his room. When Phillips discovered that Clifton was still alive and moaning under his bed, he removed the mattress, cut her throat, and stabbed her in the chest 7 times with the knife from a Leatherman tool, killing her. Clifton's disappearance was reported around 5 p.m. that day. Police and volunteers searched for Clifton for 6 days. Phillips participated in the search. He later stated he spent the following week living in denial, saying, "I was putting myself in a fantasy world that nothing had happened. That was my defense mechanism for everything when I was a kid. I never made the decision to ignore it. I just did." Phillips completed his general education development in prison, although he was initially told he was too young to do it and later took college classes by correspondence. Phillips works as a paralegal in prison, assisting other inmates with their appeals, and also works as a tutor for inmates. He also plays guitar in a band and participates in Christian religious services, zazen, and yoga. During his 2017 appeal, the prosecution acknowledged that Phillips had been a model prisoner. As of 2008, Phillips declined to write a letter of apology to Clifton's family, saying they deserved an apology from him in person, as they would not be able to see his sincerity in a letter. Clifton's mother subsequently stated she had no interest in talking to Phillips. As of 2021, Phillips is imprisoned in the Taylor Annex. Killer Kid 4. Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolf. It was June 1983, and Cindy is a teenager full of anger. She was raped before her 10th birthday and now has a strong resentment towards all people. She is a rebellious teenager and the police know her well. Shoplifting, bullying, and carjacking. It is for this reason that on 14 June 1983, she is in a correctional institution for minors. Even Shirley, 14 years old, is a difficult teenager. Raped by her father and maternal uncle when she was just a child, she has repeatedly changed family homes and has grown full of anger. She, too, is in the same correctional institution where Cindy is, and she knows her by chance. As soon as they meet, a strong bond is formed. They recognize themselves in one another, and so their behavior seems normal to them. A few hours after meeting, Cindy and Shirley are knocking from door to door, hoping that someone will come enter. Many people are suspicious and do not let the two girls in. Unfortunately, Anna Brackett, 85 years old, wants to help these two girls who ask to use her phone and allows them to enter. The two teenagers, however, chat with the woman for about an hour, looking for the courage to act. Suddenly, the phone rings. It is Anna's son, who announces that he will come to pick her up to go for a walk together. The two girls understand that the time has come to act. Shirley assails the old lady while Cindy rushes to the kitchen to look for a knife. She passes it to Shirley, who stabs Anna to death. Anna's son arrives at his mother's home shortly after the murder, and after discovering the body, called the police, who begins to question the neighbors. The two teenagers stood out, especially Cindy, who is not new in the neighborhood and was immediately recognized. But the police cannot believe that the two girls are murderers and go to Cindy's house because they think they may have witnessed the murder. Once at Cindy's house, they separate the two girls for questioning, but Cindy says it at once, "It was us." They are subjected to a trial and are given the maximum penalty for juveniles, imprisonment up to their 25th birthday. This means that Cindy and Shirley were released after only 10 years in prison. Killer Kid 5. Tyler Hadley. Tyler Hadley had been telling his friends all week that he was going to have a party, but nobody believed him. He'd never thrown a party before, and it was impossible to believe that his parents, Mary Jo and Blake, who had been increasingly strict with him lately, would give their consent. When his friends asked whether the party was still on, Tyler replied, "I'm working on it." They assumed that meant it was off. At 1:15 p.m., Tyler posted a message on his Facebook wall. "Party at my crib tonight, maybe." No one was convinced by this, but at 8:15 p.m., Tyler posted another message. "Party at my house, hit me up." Still, his friends remained incredulous. Ashley Hayes messaged, "Whoa, what if your parents come home?" "They won't," replied Tyler, "trust me." Before inviting people to his house for a party, Tyler Hadley calmly killed both his parents. Blake and Mary Jo had worried about their son for years. They'd taken Tyler to a psychiatrist and turned to a substance abuse program for help. Nothing worked. There were 60 kids in the house for the party. Most of them had no idea who Tyler was. They draped themselves over the couches, played beer pong on the dining table, scrounged for food in the kitchen cupboards, and gathered in packs out front, tossing empty cans onto the lawn. In the living room, when bottles fell to the floor and shattered, kids laughed. Cigarettes were extinguished on the rug, the kitchen counter, the wall. Tyler seemed less concerned with the destruction of his home than with the noise. If the neighbors got alarmed, they might call the police. Tyler fumed. He told his best friend Michael Mandel that he wanted to kill his mom. Mandel brushed off the statement as something an angry teenager would say. He never thought Tyler would go through with it, but on July 16th, Tyler planned. First, he took his parents' phones. That way they couldn't call for help. Then he took some ecstasy around 5 p.m. Tyler worried he couldn't go through with his plans sober. Hadley found a hammer in the garage. While Mary Jo sat at the computer, Tyler stared at the back of her head for 5 minutes. Then he swung the hammer. Mary Jo turned and screamed, "Why?" Blake, hearing the scream, ran into the room. Blake echoed his wife's question. Tyler shouted back, "Why the fuck not?" Then Tyler beat his father to death. After killing his parents, Tyler Hadley dragged their bodies into their bedroom. He cleaned up the crime scene, tossing bloody towels and Clorox wipes onto the bed. Finally, he invited his friends over for a party. During the party, Tyler apparently told several people about what he had done. Tyler went on a short walk with a friend, Michael Mandel, and confessed his crime to him. After returning to the party, Michael discovered the bodies of Blake and Mary Jo in the master bedroom. Michael did not leave the party immediately. He continued to spend hours with Tyler and even took a selfie with them. 4 hours later, he then left the party and called a local crime hotline to report the murders. News of the crime was then spread by word of mouth. Hadley was arrested early the next morning. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.